December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor is burning. American battleships are sinking into the harbor mud. Smoke smothers the Hawaiian sky. And thousands of miles away in Washington, military planners stare at maps with a terrifying realization. The United States is now fighting a two-ocean war with an air force that isn't ready. Japan dominates the Pacific skies. Germany controls Europe's airspace. America is behind, outnumbered, outpaced, and improvising. But less than 4 years later, the sky tells a different story. Over Germany, American aircraft fill the horizon, so many that Luftwaffe pilots stop counting. In the Pacific, Japanese soldiers look up and see formations stretching from horizon to horizon. The sound alone breaks morale before a single bomb falls. What happened between those two moments wasn't just innovation. It was scale. It was logistics. It was the moment an entire nation turned the sky itself into a weapon. This is the story of every American aircraft used in World War II, and how American industry rewrote the rules of air power forever. Fighters. Curtiss P-40 Warhawk. Before Pearl Harbor, this was what America had. The P-40 wasn't elegant. It couldn't outturn a Zero or outclimb a Messerschmitt, but it could dive, and it could take punishment. Over China and Burma, the Flying Tigers learned how to survive by fighting vertically, strike fast, escape faster. The P-40 didn't win air superiority. It bought time. And in 1942, time was everything. But survival alone wouldn't win the war. America needed something stronger. Republic P-47 Thunderbolt. The P-47 was enormous. 7 tons of metal wrapped around the largest radial engine ever fitted to a fighter. Pilots called it the Jug. It didn't dance in the sky. It smashed through it. P-47s returned with wings shredded, engines leaking oil, cockpits full of holes. 8.50 caliber guns turned enemy aircraft into scrap, and later, bombs and rockets turned rail yards and armor columns into graveyards. The P-47 proved a crucial lesson. Durability wins wars as often as agility. Still, one problem remained. The bombers were dying. North American P-51 Mustang. The Mustang didn't just change the war. It solved the war's biggest problem. Before the P-51, American bombers flew alone deep into Germany and paid for it in blood. Then the Mustang arrived, fitted with the Merlin engine and long-range drop tanks. Now escorts could fly to Berlin and back. Mustangs didn't just defend bombers. They hunted fighters, destroyed airfields, and shattered Germany's ability to fight in its own sky. Air superiority wasn't about winning dogfights anymore. It was about making the enemy afraid to take off. Bombers. Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress. The B-17 became a symbol. For engines, tight formations, defensive fire in every direction. Crews believed they could fight their way to the target and back. Reality was brutal. Raids over Schweinfurt and Regensburg nearly broke the bomber force. But America didn't stop. It built more. Thousands more. The message was simple. You can shoot us down, but we will keep coming. Consolidated B-24 Liberator. The B-24 lacked the romance of the B-17, but it carried more bombs, flew farther, and served everywhere. It struck oil fields in Romania, hunted submarines, bombed islands across the Pacific. It wasn't loved. It was needed, and it was everywhere. Boeing B-29 Superfortress. This was the future. Pressurized cabins, remote control guns, unmatched range. B-29s burned Japanese cities and ended the war. The firebombing of Tokyo killed more people than either atomic bomb. And when the war ended, it was a B-29 that delivered history's most terrible weapon. The B-29 didn't just win a war. It changed how wars would be fought forever. Medium and attack aircraft. Douglas A-20 Havoc. Fast, flexible, and relentless, the A-20 struck targets others couldn't. It flew low, hit hard, and vanished. It was warfare without ceremony. North American B-25 Mitchell. 16 B-25s launched from a carrier and bombed Tokyo in 1942. The damage was small. The message was enormous. Japan was no longer untouchable. Martin B-26 Marauder. Early on, pilots feared it. Later, they trusted it. By war's end, the B-26 had the lowest loss rate of any American bomber in Europe. It didn't forgive mistakes, but it rewarded mastery. Douglas, A-26 Invader. Arriving late, the A-26 proved so effective it remained in service for decades. Speed, firepower, precision. A glimpse of post-war air combat. Naval aviation. Grumman F-4F Wildcat. Outclassed, but unbroken. Wildcats and smart tactics stopped Japan at Midway. Not by perfection, but by discipline. Grumman F-6F Hellcat. Faster, more powerful, better armed, and far tougher than the Zero. The Hellcat dominated the Pacific from 1943 onward. Hellcat pilots achieved a kill ratio of 19-1. Over 5,000 Japanese aircraft were destroyed by Hellcats. It wasn't flashy. It was efficient. And efficiency wins wars. Vought F-4U Corsair. The Vought F-4U Corsair had the most distinctive profile of any American fighter. Bent wings, long nose, massive engine. Early carrier trials were disastrous. The Navy initially rejected it for carrier use, sending it to the Marines instead. Marine pilots fell in love with it. The Corsair was fast, climbed like a rocket, and could carry bombs and rockets that turned it into a devastating ground attack platform. Douglas SBD Dauntless. It was a dive bomber, slow, vulnerable, obsolete by 1944. But at Midway, Dauntless pilots sank 4 Japanese carriers in one day. That single action changed the course of the Pacific War. The SBD wasn't advanced. It was just flown by men who knew how to aim. Grumman TBF Avenger. The Grumman TBF Avenger was a torpedo bomber, large and ungainly. Future President George H.W. Bush flew one. Avengers struck Japanese warships, hunted submarines, and supported amphibious landings. Reliable and tough, the Avenger remained in service long after the war ended. Logistics. Douglas C-47 Skytran. The military version of the legendary DC-3 became the most important transport aircraft of the war. Over 10,000 were built. They dropped paratroopers over Normandy. They supplied troops in Burma. They evacuated wounded from battlefields. Eisenhower called the C-47 one of the most important weapons of the war. It wasn't glamorous, but wars are won by logistics, and the C-47 was logistics incarnate. Curtiss C-46 Commando. The Curtiss C-46 Commando flew the infamous hump route over the Himalayas, supplying Chinese forces cut off by Japanese occupation. It was larger and more powerful than the C-47, capable of carrying more cargo at higher altitudes. Pilots hated flying the hump. Weather was brutal. Mountains were unforgiving. But the C-46 kept flying. The future arrives. Lockheed P-80 Shooting Star. By 1945, America was experimenting with the future. Lockheed P-80 Shooting Star was America's first operational jet fighter, arrived too late to see combat in World War II. But it represented the next chapter. The age of propellers was ending. The jet age was beginning. And America intended to lead it. American aircraft didn't win the war by being perfect. They won by being everywhere. America built over 300,000 aircraft. When one was lost, 10 more replaced it. Innovation mattered, but scale mattered more. The sky didn't belong to the fastest. The lesson of American air power in World War II isn't about individual brilliance. It's about scale, logistics, and the terrifying efficiency of a democracy at total war. The Mustang was a great fighter, but it mattered because America built 15,000 of them. The B-17 was a symbol, but it mattered because America could afford to lose hundreds and keep bombing. It belonged to those who could fill it, and no one filled the sky like America. If you want to see how other nations fought the air war, explore the German and British aircraft documentaries, and subscribe for more World War II history.